and welcome to my channel. Today I have a trash to treasure video for you guys. I'll be sharing 3 items that I picked up from my local thrift store, and I'll be showing you how I make over each piece. I did pick up all of these items back in February, and they've just been hanging out waiting for me to transform them. If you guys want to see how I make over all 3 items, then please keep watching. The first item I'll be showing you today is this rectangle shaped decorative box. I picked it up from Goodwill and I paid $2.99 for it. I thought it would make a perfect centerpiece, and that's what I'm going to be transforming it into today. To transform this piece, I first started by painting the entire outside of the piece with my Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster. I did have to do 2 coats of paint to get that dark color all covered up. I then painted the inside of this piece with my Waverly chalk paint in the color Ink, and I only had to do 1 coat of that paint. After all of that paint was dry, I then decided that I wanted all of the trim work that was on the front of this piece to be that ink color as well. So to help me out a little bit so that I didn't get the ink color onto the white that I've already painted on, I just used some painter's tape around all of the trim and then painted it. I was able to do it a lot faster this way, and once the paint was dry on each piece of trim, I then just peeled off the painter's tape. I continued the same step for the entire piece. It did take me a little while, but it was definitely worth it in the long run. I had already painted the handles of this piece with that plaster color, but I wanted them to match the trim, so I just went over that white color with my ink colored paint on both handles. And I couldn't forget about the bottom of this piece. I painted this with that ink color as well. I thought a piece of burlap would be super cute along the front of this piece, so here I'm taking a scrap piece of burlap that I had and I'm just measuring and cutting that down to size. And then I wanted to have the burlap frayed out a little bit, so I'm taking all 4 sides of it and just pulling the burlap pieces off so that all 4 sides would be nice and frayed. Then I went back into painting this piece a little bit more. After looking at it, I wanted it to have a little bit more of a rustic look, so I decided to take my folk art chalk paint in the color Castle and dry brush that on the entire piece. I did focus the paint more on all of the ink colored paint on the trim and then on the handles. And to paint this color on, I used a chip brush, and I also painted the same color on the inside and the bottom of the piece as well. Then back to that burlap piece that I had already cut and frayed, I'm just hot gluing it to the very front of my piece right in the center. On this piece, I'm also going to be using some of these unfinished wood letters that I picked up from Dollar Tree to place right over top of that burlap, and I'm painting them with the Castle color chalk paint once again, and I only painted them with 1 coat of paint. Once all of my letters have completely dried, I'm then taking them and setting them right on top of that burlap so that I can have them placed exactly where I want them before I start attaching them. And to attach each letter, I'm taking some hot glue, I'm placing it on the back of each wood letter one at a time, and then just placing them where I had originally already had set them into place. To go along with the burlap that's on the front of this piece, I thought it would be super cute with some burlap on the inside of the box. So I'm just taking another scrap piece of burlap that I had and pressing it down inside, using some floral foam on top of that burlap so that I can place in some of these boxwood stems that I picked up from Walmart. I'm cutting each stem down so that it's easier for me to place into the floral foam. And then I'm also going to be using some of these lavender stems that I picked up from Walmart, and these ones were already cut down from a previous project, and I'm just placing them in between the boxwoods. Then to fill all of the areas around my boxwoods and my lavender, I'm using some Spanish moss from Dollar Tree and just setting that down around all of my stems. To add a little bit more detail to this piece, I'm adding some jute around both of the handles. To attach the jute, I placed hot glue on the inside portion of the handle, attached the jute over top of the glue, and then just wrapped the jute around several times, and then just hot glued the end of that jute piece down. Here is my flower box centerpiece all finished. I love how this one turned out. And what's even better is I can switch out all of the florals that are inside to go with each season. Now moving into the second piece that I'll be transforming today, it is this really simple wood frame. Frames are really great to get at your local thrift store. You can find some amazing deals. This one is from Goodwill and I paid $1.99 for it. For this frame, I thought it would be really cute painted a white color. I'm painting it with my Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster. I did do 2 coats of paint on this piece and I made sure that I painted the back of the frame as well. After my frame was completely dry, I then took my folk art wood tin in the color gray and I used an old towel to apply this, and I applied it just like I would a stain. I did go over it twice with this to get the color payoff that I wanted. Next, I'm taking 5 large popsicle sticks that I picked up from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to be placing these on the inside of the frame so that it gives an appearance of wood slats, but I needed to measure them and cut them down to size. So to cut them down, I am using some scissors, and I just cut off the top and bottom portion of the popsicle stick. And then for the fifth popsicle stick, I did have to cut some off of the side so that it would fit perfectly inside of my frame. Now that all of my sticks are cut down, I'm applying my Craftsmart wood stain in the color brown, and I'm using an old towel to apply it to all of the front sides of my popsicle sticks. This is a water-based stain and it dries really fast. Next, I'm attaching my popsicle sticks on the inside of my frame. To do that, I'm placing hot glue on the inside lip of the frame and then pressing down my popsicle stick on top of the glue, and I continued that step until I had all 5 of my sticks attached. The design that I'm using on the front of my frame is this Bless Our Nest stencil that I picked up from Michael's. This does come in a pack of stencils, and the color that I'm using to paint over top of my stencil is my Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster, and I'm using my Dollar Tree stencil brush to apply the paint. After the paint completely dried, I then peeled back my stencil. To go above my words, Bless Our Nest, I'm using some of this buffalo check ribbon that I picked up from Hobby Lobby. I'm making a really simple bow, and then to attach the bow above my words, I'm using some hot glue right on the wood and then pressing the bow on top of the glue. And then for the tail ends of my ribbon, I'm just cutting those into a diagonal shape. Here's my frame all made over. I think it turned out absolutely beautiful, and I love the way that it looks displayed in my home. Now for the third piece that I'll be making over today, it is this letter holder or remote holder. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's a really good solid piece. I paid $3.99 for it, and I picked it up at Goodwill. I knew that I wanted this piece to go with the rest of the decor that I have in my home, so I'm painting it with the folk art chalk paint in the color Castle. I did have to do 2 coats of this paint to get the black color that's originally on the piece all covered up. I did make sure to paint the inside of this piece as well. It was a little tricky since the openings were kind of small, but I just took my time and eventually got everything all painted the same color. Once those coats of paint were all dry, I then took a chip brush and my Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster, and I dry brushed that color over top of my entire piece. I wanted to add a little bit more depth and dimension to this piece, so by adding this second color, it really makes everything pop. Next, I'm placing this home stencil right on the center portion of my piece. The stencil is from Michael's, and for the paint that I'm using over the top of the stencil, it is my Waverly chalk paint in the color Ink. And to help me not get any of the ink color on all of the places that I've already painted, I'm using a small piece of paper around all of the areas that I'm stenciling. Once that paint was all dry, I then simply peeled off my stencil. To make my homeward look a little bit more distressed, I'm taking that plaster color paint on a chip brush and very lightly dry brushing over top of it. Here is my piece all made over. I did end up using it as a remote holder. I placed a book in the back side, some coasters, and of course my TV remotes. I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video as much as I enjoyed making it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and share it. It really helps out my channel. If you're not subscribed, I hope that you will consider subscribing. Please be sure to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of my future videos. And I would love to hear which project from today's video was your favorite. Thank you so much for watching.